Sold for meat, human. Hold me. Use me. Just get me out of here, she whispered. The rain pounded against the metal rooftops of the slave market. Rusted cages lined the muddy street, each one containing the broken remnants of lives, human and alien alike. The auctioneer's booming voice rose above the noise, shouting prices as though trading livestock instead of people. Elias kept his head low. He wasn't here to buy. He wasn't here for trouble. He was just passing through, or so he told himself. Yet every time he came near these markets, he lingered longer than he should. Something about the hollow eyes behind the bars gnawed at his chest. Today, his gaze caught on a cage shoved into the shadows of a leaning wall. Unlike the others, it didn't have the rowdy cries of bidders around it. This was a low-value cage. Inside, huddled in chains, was a woman. Not human. Not entirely alien, either. Her form was slender, draped in filthy cloth, but her skin had a faint luminescence, like faint starlight struggling through grime. A cruel sign hung above her, sold for meat, unfit for labor. Elias froze.
Meat.
They weren't even going to keep her alive. She was a commodity, a carcass waiting to be claimed. Her head lifted weakly, pale eyes, large, fragile-looking, locked onto his. She studied him as though clinging to the last strand of hope. Then, in a voice so soft he almost thought it was the rain, she whispered through the bars. Sold for meat, human, hold me, use me, just get me out of here. Elias's breath caught. He glanced around, but no one else seemed to have heard. The auctioneer was busy yelling over bids for another cage. No one cared about her. He knelt closer, lowering his hood. You're asking me to buy you? Her lips trembled. I don't care what you do after. Just not the knives. Not the hooks. Please. Her desperation wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't the usual performance of slaves trying to tempt buyers. This was raw, unfiltered terror. Elias's stomach twisted. He didn't have much left, just a few credits from the last cargo run. Barely enough for supplies. But what would it mean, leaving her here? He'd walk away, and hours later she'd be nothing but meat on a butcher's block. His hand tightened into a fist. Damn it. Hey, he barked toward the nearby guard. What's the price on this one? The guard sneered, spitting into the mud. That one? Useless thing.
Can't work.
Barely stands. Going for slaughter. You want her, 30 credits and she's yours. Otherwise, butcher gets her. 30. Elias cursed under his breath. That was nearly all he had left. But when he looked back at her, those trembling eyes, the fragile way she clutched the filthy cloth around her chest, he couldn't walk away. Fine, Elias said. He shoved the credits forward. The guard laughed, shaking his head as if Elias were a fool, but he pocketed the credits all the same. The cage clattered open. Chains dragged as the woman was shoved into Elias's arms. She was lighter than she should have been, bones under fragile skin. She gasped when he steadied her, clinging to his coat as though it were the first warmth she'd felt in months. Mine now, Elias muttered, glaring at the guard. That means hands off. The guard smirked and turned back to his duties. To them, she wasn't worth the breath. Elias tugged his head lower and guided her away from the market, each step feeling heavier. Back at his rundown ship on the outskirts of the port, Elias helped her inside. The small cargo hauler was no palace, but at least it was warm, safe, and far from butcher's knives. The woman sank onto a bench, trembling. Her luminescent skin glowed faintly under the ship's dim lights. She looked both alien and heartbreakingly human. You're free from them now, Elias said softly. Name? She shook her head, tears catching in her lashes. Doesn't matter. They called me nothing. Just meat. Well, you're not meat anymore, Elias said firmly. He fetched a blanket and wrapped it around her shoulders. You need food, water, rest. Her gaze flicked up to him, wary, uncertain.
Why? You bought me.
Don't you want to use me? Elias blinked. Use you? Hell no. Her lips trembled again, confusion breaking through. Then why spend your credits? Because you asked me to, Elias said simply. Because you were going to die and I couldn't stand by. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Then, slowly, she leaned forward until her forehead rested against his chest. Her whisper was so faint he almost didn't hear it. You're the first who ever listened. The following days were difficult. She ate little at first, as though afraid the food might vanish. She startled at every noise, curled tightly whenever the ship groaned in orbit. Elias gave her space but also gentle care, bandages, warmth, silence when she needed it. One night, when the rain once again pounded outside the port city, she came to him. Wrapped in the blanket he'd given her, she stood by his bunk, pale eyes shimmering. I don't want to be alone, she whispered. Can I stay here? Elias shifted, making room. She climbed in cautiously, curling beside him, still trembling. His arm hesitated before settling gently around her shoulders. She sighed, a sound of deep exhaustion, and whispered, They said I was worthless, that no one would ever hold me. Elias's jaw tightened. They were wrong. Weeks passed. The frail woman began to regain her strength. Her luminescence grew brighter, her eyes steadier. She told him fragments of her past, how her people had been hunted, how she was captured when she wandered too close to human settlements, how every kindness had been stripped from her life until she expected none at all. Elias never pressed when she grew quiet. He let her set the pace. But one evening, she caught his hand in hers. Her glow seemed warmer now, softer. You saved me, she whispered. Not because you wanted to own me, not because you wanted to use me, but because you cared. I couldn't let them cut you down like cattle, Elias said. Her eyes softened. Then let me stay. Not as meat, not as property, just with you. Elias's throat tightened. He nodded. With me. She smiled for the first time. And from that night on, the woman once branded as meat became as light in the shadows of a cruel universe. No longer begging to be held as a last plea for survival, but choosing to stay because she was finally, truly free.